closest debate.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Minister, the Member for Hyson, the Member for Unley and the Member for Gibson for their contributions to this motion. And I think that one thing we all agree on, as the Member for Unley said, we all want to celebrate this incredible institution. It's been recognised by members on both sides that the foundation of the institution was the result of work from Labor and Liberal governments initiated during the Playford era, and then the first Labor government after that long period, and then the Hall government, and then the Dunstan government. It was a significant investment of time, of resources of the state, and indeed it was a state-building project. So that's something to be celebrated. I guess in that spirit, I also want to thank the Minister, because usually in these debates there's an amendment brought by the government which is overtly political, pointed and unreasonable. The Minister has brought an amendment. While I don't necessarily support it, it is not especially political, and on the opposition we like to reward good behaviour. So while we're not necessarily supportive, we're not going to divide against it, and I commend the government for that, and I give back to those government members 4 minutes of their lives in response to that. Encourage other ministers to take note. On a serious note, I think it may have been the Member for Hyson or possibly the Member for Unley that raised the issue of the amphitheatre, which is no longer there. And I think it's worth thinking about, because at the moment I understand there's a business case being developed for a concert hall. In my speech I reflected on the fact that it is to the credit of the Festival Centre, but nevertheless quite remarkable that we have been able to maintain our status as a UNESCO City of Music without a purpose-built concert hall. And I think many people, should the business case stack up, would ultimately like to see that development take place. But that would be a significant investment, potentially multiple years, and certainly, given the time it would take, I would hope at least 2 different governments, finishing with the Liberal government obviously, for that to be completed. That may take time. I recognise that. I hope that the Minister, when she receives that business case, if she hasn't already, will socialise that business case broadly, because I think it's the sort of thing that could well benefit our state and benefit bipartisan support if the business case obviously stacks up. But there is indeed a solution to short-term needs that could be delivered more quickly and at less cost, while not necessarily being instead of, and I'd explicitly say not instead of, a concert hall, but potentially before a concert hall, and that is to have an open-air sound shell, so the sort of thing where you can have significant performances in that festival precinct or elsewhere in the CBD, the sort of things that the amphitheatre provided, but also the sort of things that we used to have regularly. Symphony Under the Stars was for many young people an introduction to classical music, and for families a beautiful night out. That was incredibly expensive to stage, and without specific corporate sponsorship it's been unable to be staged for a period of time now. A number of people would remember Ennio Morricone performing themes from extraordinary musicals. I think there might have been an issue that night with the car race starting at the same time. I have confirmation from the Member for Gibson, who was there. I remember Neil Finn. Thankfully it was on a different night. Those sorts of performances are extraordinary, but incredibly expensive to set up and establish. To the quality of music that is required, it's a popping up, popping down, it's a cost that gets borne, and the lack of specific sponsorship for those events means that the people of South Australia miss out on some really great opportunities. A sound shell can be scalable, larger or smaller. There are opportunities there that I encourage the Minister to take up. Now, the $200,000 that's been put forward isn't going to do that. That $200,000 hopefully will be applied to some terrific further performances and with the support of both sides of the House. But I do encourage the government to think seriously about this proposal, which has been discussed for a little bit of time. I don't suggest it as an alternative to a potential concert hall, but it's something that I think would be a worthy consideration for the people of South Australia. And if this government were to support it, they would, I believe, as long as, again, the business case stacks up for it, it's something that is definitely worth considering. I encourage the Minister to do so, the government to do so. I commend the original motion to the House, and if it must be amended, then I'd still, I suppose, support the amended motion.